Welcome to the Catalyst for Growth podcast, a place where we talk about everything under the sun regarding the journey of the professional salesperson. Welcome the hosts for the C4G Sales Professional Enrichment Podcast, Kevin Burwald and John Kailunas II. Take it away, boys.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Kailunas II. I'm here with my son, John Kailunas III, nicknamed Trey, and we're talking about, this is the third segment of the championship series, or champion series. I keep saying championship, but champion series. And we often celebrate the achievements of champions in sports and academics in various fields, but the essence of being a champion lies within each one of us. And our goal of this podcast is to get you, the professional, service professional, a little better than you were yesterday, and to have you come and grab a nugget of what we've experienced throughout our careers and through our personal lives. So today I want to explore the concept of personal self in relationship to being a champion, and about recognizing and harnessing our inner strengths, embracing the unique journey we all have, and creating qualities that truly define a champion. And Trey, we've done it in the other podcasts, and you can go on www.catalystforgrowth.org and get all of the other podcasts we have regarding the champion series. But let's talk about what a champion is, because it's not just the guy holding or the lady holding the trophy at the end of the day. What is a champion?
No, a champion is someone who wakes up every day, does their job to the best of their ability, and then, wakes up the next day and does it again. It's not just a one-time thing, but it's continual hard work and really results, right? It doesn't mean that you are winning every single battle or every meeting that
it's a champion of life.
Yeah. And so there's so many things that really go into just being a champion, and it really flows into our overall, thing that we've talked about on these episodes in the past. And that's redefining what success truly looks like, instead of just a monetary value or a ranking value, but really what it looks like in your own personal life, right?
So as we're sitting here in the beautiful studios of MMG in Tampa, let's talk a little bit about personal self. What does self-awareness have with personal self? And I guess define personal self first for people.
Yeah, I think personal self really dives into that. I always say the head part, right? So another thing within the champion series is that heart and spirit, but really this is the, confidence side, the emotional intelligence side that I think that we all have to look at and embody, right?
So give me an example. I mean, some of you people know from previous episodes, we talked about your athletic career and your academic. You're now a PhD candidate at Liberty in strategic leadership. Talk a little bit about when that sort of light clicked on in your head and how important it was.
Yeah, I think it was probably, obviously I had that training and everything from IMG, but I think really it started to show when I hit adversity, right? So that didn't happen until after really I was leaving Marymount and I walked into University of Detroit Mercy, not really knowing anyone at all, and not even actually being able to show them what I was made of, because I came in with the shoulder injury. So I think that I started to look at myself in more of a negative light, and it was trying to build back that confidence and find myself and who I was, because I knew going in with only 3 years of eligibility, hey, lacrosse isn't going to be the rest of my life. I've got to find out who I am in order to be successful and be a champion myself.
We often talk about how financial service professionals, they either bring really strong families or they have fractured families. And I think it's a function of the job, right? That there's not a lot of life balance when you're building a financial service job. And I always knew this about you, that I could throw you in a shark-infested waters, and that's where you did your best work. But I saw that as a young man, and when I threw you into IMG, that was you're swimming with sharks, 5-star recruit All-Americans, and they say you're the worst kid that they've recruited that year, and you ended up playing on the national team and playing on the varsity team and all of that stuff, and did really well, and you ended up being an academic All-American there. And it's the same with you, Adi. I was never worried about that, but that's knowing you and watching you and developing. I'm not saying you weren't scared of shit, but you overcame that, and you had the self-awareness to know who you were and what you could do. I think part of that is embracing your authenticity of who you were as an individual, even though you're still developing at 27. I'm developing at 60, I hope still. We're evolving and adapting. We talked about adapting in an earlier championship series, but Talk about embracing authenticity as a champion.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this since I was younger too. It goes back to
Some of the listening audience, you're still young, so don't get too
that's
cocky
fair.
there. You're not the old man
But
on the mountain yet.
But it goes back to, even just knowing who you are, right? Who am I as a person? I have a long answer for that. It's not just I'm a lacrosse player anymore, but I'm really developing into an educated young man who respects and wants to learn about the world and experience different things. And I think if you would have asked me the same question many years ago, I didn't necessarily know. And it's because
Well, who
Yeah.
does at a young age?
Yeah,
I mean, I think maybe that's part of the frustration with the older generation looking at the younger generation because they don't have things figured out. But I can tell you, there's a lot of brokers that are listening now that haven't figured it out, and they get caught in their own way. They overthink things, and this is what we're trying to do is help develop other generations and other people to get past that
Yeah.
themselves and become authentic with themselves. And if you are an overthinker, own it and create a process that you're not overthinking, right? To overcome whatever obstacles or headaches you're having.
And I think that denial of self also plays hand in hand with embracing authenticity, right? Because if you don't accept who you are, you're never going to be able to improve those, areas of your life, right? If you try to tell yourself you're not an overthinker, well, in that same sentence, you are being an overthinker. So I think it's also important to understand, what you're not.
How do you cultivate confidence as a champion?
I think there's many different ways, right? When I was coming back from my injury, I would use the old, wake up, talk to myself in the mirror. But I think a lot of it with confidence.
That'd be really irritating for your roommates.
No, thankfully that was when I was just living by myself. So
Okay, so you could talk all you wanted to that mirror.
Exactly. But I think that there's many ways, and you rebuild that confidence by taking little baby steps and celebrating small wins. I think that we have a huge issue in the sales culture right now, across all industries. I see it in the tech industry, the SaaS industry, in which I work with AP automation, but people only care about when the contract is signed. My issue with that is a BDR who's just starting off, he's got to understand, hey, it may take 50 no's for him to finally book that meeting. So really, when you look at it, each and every no he's getting is actually closer to a win. So
every no is closer to a yes.
Exactly. And so
that's an old bullpen. I mean, I used to start
Exactly.
by calling a bullpen, and people, I mean, I remember some lunatics that were excited they got hung up on or called a name because, I'm one step closer to a yes.
But you think that's so common. It's not. People still only celebrate when they have the big wins. The small wins have to be celebrated, and I think that through celebrating the small wins, that confidence of a person really develops.
Yeah, I was watching, I think it was a 30 for 30 about the University of Miami, and they were talking about how they had a cigar, and they would have it even after losses because it was a victory of the game and the spirit of the game that they had. And it's, I think it was University of Miami, and they all started. I think it was Ed Reed actually that started. It was an article in Cigar Magazine talking about Ed Reed, who he started. He learned from some upperclassmen to have a cigar, and they'd have a cigar after every game.
Very cool.
So it's interesting celebrating it. So let's talk about nurturing inner strength and of a champion, right? And how resilience plays in that, because you talked about what a champion was earlier in this podcast. That's a person that gets up for work and does it for 40 years, right? And just grinds it out. That requires a tremendous amount of mental toughness and resilience, right? When you're having a bad day, bad week, bad year, whatever. Life, like one thing we know about life, it's going to change in a direction you have no clue about, and it's going to do it really quickly, and you need to be able to adapt, and you need to be resilient. So how does that play?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize, like you just said, life is full of ups and downs. You're going to have wins, you're going to have losses, and probably more losses than wins. But, you've got to be able to recognize that setback, adapt to it, and move forward. And maybe it's not even just defeating that setback. Maybe it's taking a different route. I can go out and try out for plenty of football teams to be the number one wide receiver, but I know over time I'm going to continue to fail because I'm not a college wideout, right? So you've got to understand.
You get a lousy 40 time. You're getting old.
Yeah, you got to understand your different paths. And I think that resilience, as long as you get up, that's all that matters.
So as part of determination and perseverance, right? Being determined. So how do we teach young kids to be determined?
I think that you did a great job with Courtney and I, and it's little things, right? The small wins, but that's also sitting down and writing what those goals are, right? We can cite that very common Harvard study about writing down goals, but you create that determination when you're waking up every single morning in your bedroom and you've got one of those big notebook sticky note papers and you look up, I want to play, college lacrosse. I saw that every day for, 17 years waking up. I want to play Division One. I want to play Division One. So I think that, parents need to sit down with their children, understand what their goals are and how they can help them. Even if it's, they know nothing about that subject, try to figure out who does in the community.
Well, I'll take you back to a time, we won't mention the names to embarrass them, but when you were at Catholic Central before you went to IMG in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they were filming you. And it was actually Andrew Chrisman was filming you. And Andrew is the husband of Heather, our chief of staff at Regal. Great guy. He was taping you, and on the tape, it was a parent was told, and the kid was playing with you. A parent was caught on audio saying, "There's not a Division I player on this field, including my kid." And I remember when you saw that tape and you heard that was just fuel for you, and fuel. And you weren't highly recruited. You got a couple offers, and you went to Marymount, and then you worked. I mean, you played magnificently your freshman year. Started and had a game-winning goal as a defenseman, and you had a lot of great in a very tough league. And you parlayed that to go to a D1 school, and how that shaped you, that perseverance and that determination. Because I know you played that tape over 1,000 frickin' times and heard that audio clip.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've definitely heard of it, and I mean, it doesn't get me riled up anymore just because I know he's wrong. But I think it's important that, when looking at a champion.
I thank that dad for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was a little pissed when it first happened, because you never want to hear your kid's not good enough, especially from someone who's never played an organized sport in his life. But it was great motivation. You turned that into putting a little fire in your belly.
Yeah, and I think like one of those things I always go back and forth on, do you listen to people outside of that trusted circle, outside of your mentor circle, or do you just say everything that is said outside of your circle is just completely baloney, right?
Yeah, and let's take a look at that, because I think there's something really powerful in what you just said. As an adult, you can help focus your children on what they're hearing and how they're hearing it. Well, I don't know maybe not how they're hearing it, but definitely what they're hearing. And as an adult, what you're putting in your head and what you're listening to and will change how you're acting, and it will change the projection of your business. If you're not listening to the right thing and surrounding yourself with the right people, you don't have a broker-dealer RA that's supporting you to grow, you don't have a competent staff, all of that is going to get you to go in a different trajectory. And it's up to you to control that environment, not only for your child, but also for yourself and what you're putting between your ears. And a lot of times we just go with the flow and woe's me, or, the whole world's become full of excuses and victim oriented. And if you just take control and stand up and really watch what's going in your noggin and your kid's noggin, I think it'll be a better place. And again, that's what this Champions Series is about, is to sort of explain how you can create those type of environments, and to just by being acknowledging it is a huge step forward in creating a safe space. And when I say safe space, a space that is positive.
Yeah, that actually creates and promotes, I think, and cultivates learning and understanding, right? It's not necessarily saying that we want parents to go forward and shelter their kids off from the bad things. Mm-hmm. I think one of the great things that I experienced throughout my life were, the times when we would go through the rough parts of a city and see those different, experiences, right? You don't want to shelter them to make the world seem like it's all glossy and rainbows, but you want to understand on an emotional level or a learning level, are they learning the right things, right? Are they on YouTube listening to someone with no accreditations, or are they listening to someone that knows what they're talking about and actually is providing insightful commentary.
The great example I give is that, a lot of people's political season, a lot of people listen to celebrities and who they're going to vote for. And I'm sorry, you might be a great action star, but I don't know what your credentials are in talking about a presidential candidate or the Senate candidate. Most of these people are so out of tune that their experiences are not relevant to me or my family or my community, but yet people follow them blindly because they're celebrities. And, I think having some emotional intelligence is a real important part of champion. Want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think EQ, emotional intelligence, is one of the most important things that actually was brought up when I was at IMG. And, we have the IQ, that's intelligence, just straightforward, right? But emotional intelligence is how you recognize in certain situations. When you walk into a social setting, are you aware of different people, kind of the energy of the room? Can you read people's facial expressions? Can you see their body language when they're engaging in a conversation? Are they forward, or do you notice that their feet are facing towards the door? So they're not truly engaged. And I think that when you start looking at some of that emotional intelligence, it actually flows very eloquently into sales, because in sales there's a lot of psychology, right? The double yeses at the beginning of a cold phone call. And so understanding, even on a Zoom meeting, those emotional intelligent factors. Oh, I guess, Susie from Dell or HP is not really involved because she's not looking at the camera or it's not turned on. I always, make a joke in my sales calls if people don't have their cameras on, just to get them to get more engaged. And I think that's something that really everybody can, take a look at and go online. We'll have a few resources listed out on the Catalyst for Growth website that will be those personality tests, and kind of it will help you find your emotional intelligence and where you are, compared to others, and how you interact with those people. I was speaking with Lannis, who's currently my girlfriend, but she is doing a project on inner workplace relationships and how to work with each other. So she asked me and some of the leadership background, what's one thing I can do, or what's one thing she can compare? And I said, go look up Myers-Briggs and the different personalities that fit into the specialties within doctors. And then talk to the fact about that this personality is missing X, Y, and Z. So you've got to, help them with that, and how to work with each other. Because I think that if we all identify and recognize emotional intelligence instead of just trying to be the smartest in the room, it leads to a lot more closed deals and just a lot more success.
Yeah, and just a little background, Alanis is in her 4th year of medical school, right?
Correct.
So that demographic is very unusual, all highly intelligent people, but there's not a lot of emotional intelligence with these people. You've been in social situations with them, and it's very difficult, but it's reading the room. And I think a lot of times from a sales perspective, if you just listen, and we talk about professional biographies and creating one in our process. If you do that with C4G, and you go to catalyst4growth.org, and 4 is the number 4, there's templates for you, and then you can hire us to help you with it. That should be your introduction. Most of the rest of the time, you should be listening and picking up cues, because people all this will sound negative, but they have tells. Like when you gamble, there's tells. There's things that people like to talk about and things that they don't. And as you can gather all that information, it allows you to have a more authentic and deeper conversation if you're positioning it that way. If you're doing it to position a sale, shame on you. If you're doing it to help somebody to get through several levels and do it quicker, with Stephen Covey, the Jr., he has a book called The Speed of Trust. It's absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't read it, there's the old Stephen Covey stuff. This is his son. He wrote The Speed of Trust. It's a phenomenal book. Buy it today, read it. You guys will love it. But you can move through trusting relationships quicker if you listen and you have authenticity in your delivery and also your intentions.
And even just prefacing some of those conversations, I've been able to watch you work with clients and many of the other Regal advisors. And I think one of the best things is you guys understand your clients, right? And the sore spots. And I've watched, Mark Gruters, he does it really well. he talks to a client and
I thought you
asks,
were going to say Mark Gruters is a sore spot.
no, but he does it really well when communicating with the client.
Yeah, he does.
And says, I know this is a difficult topic, conversation, issue. Do you want to talk about it now or later on? And he gives them that control. And you can see that these clients actually open up more when they're given back some of the control, and it doesn't feel like he's just forcing through.
That's a very high level skill.
Yeah.
And it's something that all advisors can do is like, here's the elephant in the room. When do you want to talk about it? Because it's something as a financial advisor I need to do for you, but
and there's
be difficult.
Plenty of those difficult conversations, whether it's, saying that you can't retire that year or,
death of a spouse,
child.
I mean, we all know that are listening, all the things that could go on in a client's life. It's everything. And you got to have those difficult conversations, but positioning like that's a very high level skill. And it's something that we can all learn from to become better.
Our ideas and concepts are tested in the trenches and will produce results. You can contact C4G at info@catalystforgrowth.org or call us at 813-454-0557 for a private consultation.
Let's talk a little bit deeper. I want to go into something we said earlier. I want to talk about fostering a positive mindset. Let's talk about a growth mindset and why a growth mindset is really important in a sales enrichment environment.
Of course. Yeah, and I think a growth mindset, we talk about personally how we want listeners to get 1% better every single day, right? But a growth mindset.
We might have to rephrase that because that means in 100 days, they'll be 100% better. That's
the whole point. That's the whole point. You're going to be a different person in 100 days.
They got a lot of work to do, man.
But
we want to temper some of those,
that's okay.
Some of those expectations.
With a growth mindset, I think it's understanding that growth includes setbacks, right? So that growth of an RIA, you might have advisors that you have to let go that are high producing, but maybe they're taking up 70% of your service team's time. So they're not
we just let our largest producer group go because there were some compliance issues and that we weren't aligned. I always look at 4 business filters, and you've heard it 100 times. I'll just share it with the audience. You as my son get bored with this stuff, I'm sure. So I always look for alignment, right? Are we aligned? Do we look at the world the same way? It doesn't have to be the exact way. I'll give Bill Best as an example. Bill is, very liberal and progressive. I'm conservative, but Bill runs the operation. He's our CFO. I can't think of a time in our 12-year relationship and with the outcome that we want for the business is different. The way we go about doing it is completely different, but we're aligned, right? Number 2 that I look at is it ethical, right? There's a lot of things that you can interpret that are in the gray areas of the world. I don't want to be in the gray. I said I don't mind being close to the cliff, not 6 inches from the end of the cliff. But I want to be 6 feet. But I want to be pushing things, but not too far. And so, is it ethical? And then, is it profitable? There are times where I look at our relationships. I've out-negotiated people, and they've out-negotiated me. Those relationships never last. And at 60 years old, I don't want to waste time on relationships that aren't going to be lasting. And then 4, again, this is a luxury I have now after being 25 years building Regal. Is it fun? I only want to work with people I enjoy. And I look at that. There are calls that I have to take as a leader, and there are things that I have to do that aren't fun, but I do that for the betterment of the firm. But the things I want to focus in with my time and my energy, the projects, I want them to be fun. I want them to be challenging. I want them to be uplifting.
And I think that one thing that all listeners probably already understand is you're not going to grow without challenging yourself. So understand that when those setbacks do come while going through those challenges, that's still having a growth mindset because you are trying to challenge yourself.
I want to take that comment part a little bit because I think a lot of advisors, because they're independent, right? And so they're only working within their 4 walls and their employees, right? They end up being the emperor with no clothes. And they're not challenging themselves because nobody wakes up and say, I want to be uncomfortable today. So they schedule and they sort of lie to themselves. And I always looked at this, that I had an obligation to your mom and to you and Courtney that I had to provide. A father's job is to provide and protect. So I wanted to do that every single day. And I had to do a lot of uncomfortable things to build the business and things that I didn't like to do, right? Um, and I think a lot of I shouldn't say small, but a lot of independent advisors are making a good living, but they're not having a good life because they're not growing. And I think there's a big distinction, and maybe we should do a whole podcast on that, because you can have a lifestyle income and making X and all your bills are paid and you've got a boat and a house and everything's great. But are you really growing? And it's not that you need more production. Are you running your business as efficient as it can be? Are you living your best life? Are you challenging yourself? I mean, you are always on me about living in the present, because I never do.
You only focus about the future.
I'm constantly, I don't go to reunions. I don't talk about the good old days. I'm always looking to the future. I'm always rushing to the next thing. And, I'm traveling now more, and I've been blessed to travel on, all 6 continents. I just booked Antarctica for this year, so I'll get all 7 continents, but I rush to the trip. And then after the trip, I reflect on how good it is, why I'm there. It's like, okay, tomorrow we're doing this. I don't really relax. And it's just because partially I'm a spaz, and I'm always constantly pushing forward. But I think in a growth set, you've got to be willing to recognize and be uncomfortable, and you have to take responsibility to be uncomfortable for those that you love, to get the best out of yourself. Because you're not going to become your best unless you're uncomfortable, and it's going to lead to awkward moments. So let's talk about optimism and positivity, right? Why is that important? I mean, that's sort of a duh,
Yeah.
but we need to touch it. I mean, you wrote it here, and I know it's been part of your formal education and leadership. Why is it so important?
Yeah, I think I'm probably, I would say, out of my friend group, the most optimistic and positive person. And it's always been with me. And I will say it's little.
I think you get that from your mother.
Yeah, and little moments like when youth football, Pete Sturzma, right, head coach at Hope Football, but he would come around, Kailunas, you look tired. I'm like, yeah, coach, I am. But he's like, did you have something to eat? Yeah. Did you have a place to sleep? Yep. Did you wake up in America? He's like, it's a great day to be alive. And so I think if we remind ourselves constantly, whether it's that set of questions or just having that positive optimism, and that outlook to life, you understand, like, okay, I can take this bullet to my shoulder. I can take this punch, but I can keep on moving forward. And because I have that positive stuff, instead of going into a hole, beating yourself up more about a little setback.
Which leads us right into self-compassion. I mean, I love the way you wrote this, because you don't really hear the term self-compassion. So what does it mean to you? I mean, you're talking about taking a bullet, you're talking about, what does self-compassion mean?
Be forgiving to yourself. Understand that, yes, we want to achieve dreams X, Y, and Z, but it's not going to come without setbacks. And when those setbacks come, don't negative self-talk yourself, right? You've got you in your own mind. It's not like other people are in there telling you, you're talking to yourself. And that has such a negative impact. And so if you don't forgive yourself for maybe a game or a mistake in the game, or if an advisor might have made a trading mistake, you've got to forgive yourself and move past that. Otherwise, you're not going to grow. And that's going to actually hinder your development more than if you move forward.
I've got Dave Christie scheduled on a podcast in Vegas coming up, and he is a big one regarding self-talk, and I'll bring that up to him because I think it'll dovetail exactly what you're talking about, self-compassion. So let's talk about the 3 things that embody champions quality, and then I want to ask you some questions. The three champion qualities are integrity and honesty, which is 1, empathy and humility, which is 2, and purpose and passion. Actually, you listed them as 3, but I want to, I know you're smart. You got your master's degree. You're getting your doctorate now in strategic leadership. It's actually 6, son.
I understand.
You doubled them up. You cheated. You cheated. So integrity and honesty, empathy and humility, purpose and passion. So let's talk about integrity and honesty. We talked about that in the first series and how important that is.
They're grouped together because it's, I look at these and they're a seesaw.
Wait, should I talk to the people about you not counting to 6? And
that's for another episode. But if we look at this list, right?
I'll have your sister come on and talk about your Jumbotron fame in Chicago. when you were a little kid and could have won the whole contest and didn't count to 6
That's
on
fair.
lacrosse balls.
But, integrity and honesty go hand in hand. Empathy and humility, purpose and passion, right? So we can break it down. But looking at integrity and honesty, you don't have integrity if you're not honest. And I don't know if you remember the 5 dysfunctions of a team. We did a YPO talk a few years ago on it.
Yeah, YPO is a young president's organization, which I've been a member of for, 20 years. And I know it's been really important in your development because I've dragged you onto all those talks.
But, we talked about how those 5 dysfunctions all played a part in it. And you can't have integrity if your team members aren't going to be honest. In a relationship, right? In a personal relationship with your spouse or a friend, you cannot have and hold integrity up high if you're not going to and hold information from them. So I think it's important that, integrity is held with honesty because you're not going to have that without it.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct there. Empathy and humility.
Yeah, the empathy and humility, I think that it really obviously shows a human side. So you could be the greatest person in the world, CEO of Fortune 500 company, but I don't think you're complete as a person if you don't have the empathy and humility part. I think that I'm humble throughout each day because you've taught me that, and understanding that there's always more to learn and more to accomplish in life. But empathy allows you to be humble.
Yeah, it does.
And so again, it's a seesaw where both are needed in order for, people to have fun and people to grow and learn. And I think that humility also plays, a lot of part. We'll have a whole episode on that because I think when you show empathy and humility and hold other people up, I think that's actually more rewarding than celebrating your own successes.
Yeah, I've always struggled with that. I mean, Kevin Burwell, who, co-hosts a lot of these podcasts with me, is really, I wrote a book years ago called Choices and Chances, and we were about 400 million in business. And I thought the book was outdated, and he went back and he read it, and he's like, Kailunas, you're like Babe Ruth, you called your shot. And we built the thing to be, in the billions of dollars under management. And I told everybody the principles that I was going to use. And I thought the book was outdated, but he goes, it just gives you complete validation of everybody, of who you are and what you are. And he sings the praises of Choices and Chances more than I do because I feel sort of embarrassed about it. Right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He embraces it. And he's like, you called your shot. This is the most wonderful marketing piece you could have ever done regarding helping advisors. I think to be a good advisor, you have to be humble. To be a good salesperson, you have to be humble because it can turn so quickly. And if you're not humble, then you're going to be devastated when it turns because everyone has losses, and no matter what type of sales you are. So if you're talking a lot of shit, a lot of smack, right, and it turns, all of a sudden that's going to be focused all on you. And there's so many people that want to see you fail because they're jealous or lazy. Don't give them the ammunition. Just be humble in how you go about it.
I agree.
If you would like to be a guest on the C4G podcast, please contact us at info@catalystforgrowth.org or 813-454-0557. Primetime players only. Bring your A game or don't contact us.
Purpose and passion.
So purpose is really your destination, and passion is the fuel that gets you there.
One more time. That was actually
Yeah.
really good. Holy moly. Who wrote that for you?
I did.
I'm glad all these education dollars are actually paying off.
But purpose is really, what's your end goal? What do you want to do with, your current situation? But passion is what's going to fuel that to get to that purpose. So yes, purpose, it does sound like it's just a verb and stuff, but it can be an end destination. And that passion is what's going to fuel you to get there. And without passion, you're not going to hit your purpose.
That is really good. That is really good. You can get the show notes on this. We're going to be concluding this episode. Again, this is so enjoyable for me to do this with you, with my son, and I'm very proud of, and I love you. And it's just cool that we get to share this experience and to share it with everybody and all the listeners. This champion series is really this is all by your creation as part of your master's program and your doctorate. is to help other people grow and learn as a strategic thinker, and you're going to have the education behind it. But you've always been that way, from when it's been a chess champion in grade school to your IQ on the sports field and how you handle yourself as an adult. Um, the journey to becoming a champion starts within. It's about understanding, embracing your personal selves, nurturing your inner strengths, fostering a positive mindset, and embodying the qualities that define true champions. Each one of us has the potential to be a champion in our own right, to achieve greatness, and to inspire others through our actions. I hope that you're pulling nuggets out of these series. We screw around a little bit because we're father and son. But I hope you're pulling nuggets out that you can use in your day-to-day work, that you can improve your family. We're not perfect by any means, but we've had some success. We've also had failures that we're willing to share with you so you get better. Our goal is for you to get one step better than you were yesterday. Shave a little time off that 40, lift a little more in the weight room, given the old athletic analogies. And thank you for spending your time with us. You can contact us through the C4G website. It's catalyst4grow.org. You can email us through there. Our phone number's on there too. And we would love to talk with you if you want to personally develop and have us coach and train you. Trey's available to coach and train young athletes and young professionals. He brings a different perspective because of his education background and his athletic experience. So, again, I want to thank you for your listening time. Well,
one last thing. We almost skipped over the Champions Challenge.
What's the Champions Challenge?
So I would like to challenge everybody to go online tonight and look up either Myers-Briggs or one of the 16 personalities. Take that personality test to understand and help understand your EQ, and read through the other profiles to understand how you can work and almost identify your coworkers to foster a better relationship between the two of you.
Yeah, one of the next sections we're going to have in Catalyst for Growth, thanks for bringing that up, I forgot about it, Trey, is that we're going to have all that testing available through Catalyst for Growth. You're going to be taking the head of that so you can work with. I would test everybody. We do it at Regal. We test all of our employees. I look at that before the reviews. Some people, Trey always loved a coach that would grab him by the face mask and give him a little spit while he's screaming at him. He loved that. But a lot of people wilt under that, right? So you need to find out how to communicate and how to relate, right? To be your authentic self, to get your mission and your values of how you're leading your organization through to your team. You need to know how to best communicate with your team. And these personality tests are spot on. They're amazing how they've been developed over the years. I took them years ago, and I've taken them, and they've sort of just plotted right along. And we're going to have that available in the next coming year with the Catalyst for Growth. We'll have those available that we can test your whole shop while we're helping you build other aspects of your business. So again, thank you, Trey, for your time. Thanks to the lovely studios here in Tampa, MMG. And we appreciate your time and listening. Stay tuned next week for new content regarding how to enrich yourself as a professional salesperson. Again, catalyst4growth.org. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your time today. We will have another content-packed session posted next week. Please check our website, catalystforgrowth.org, for our legal disclosures on the bottom of our homepage, if you're into that sort of thing.